Good evening, everyone. I have missed this. Welcome to Late Night Coffee Talk. I have coffee. It's not really that late. I mean, like since the last time we were together, we sprung forward, so it's practically just 8 o'clock still. Anyway, this has been a long time coming. I have been on the road, but we will get to that here in a bit. We got a lot to talk about tonight, obviously, since it's been a hot minute since we did this. Last time I talked to you guys, I was in Austin. And of course, big things happened, as you might remember. But we will get to that here in a moment. First and foremost, let me introduce myself to the new folks. My name is Daniel Miller. I'm president of the Texas Nationalist movement. And this is Late Night Coffee Talk. This is that time where generally once a week, right, if I'm not traveling, I take a break from work, grab yet another cup of coffee, and talk about what's going on with TEXIT, what's going on with the TNM, what's going on in the world, and more importantly, what's going on with you. I take questions and I answer as many as I possibly can, hopefully weaving it in the story of the week, because most of the questions generally center around things that happened since the last time we visited. So we are here. And if you have any questions, comments, anything, be sure to pop them in the chat on either of the YouTube channels. Or you can, I think, comment on Facebook. I think maybe we're on LinkedIn. I don't even know where all we are anymore. Maybe I think we're on our Roku channel. I mean, I just don't know. There's so much happening. There's so many things happening with what we're doing, and I just can't keep up with those. So wherever we are, if you can drop us a question, feel free to do so. If you just prefer to email it in, right, you can, if you'll see right down there at the bottom, email your questions to coffeetalk@thetnm.org. Boom. And I will accumulate these, and hopefully I will get to your question. And I may bundle them together. I may remix them for understandability. I mean, it's just send it in if you have questions, right? I will tell you, though, if you have just a generic text question, odds are I am just going to direct you to our website, texitnow.org, which has all those wonderful questions about Texit answered and dispels so many myths and rumors. And boy, howdy, have there been plenty. Unreal. Okay. So I don't know who else here is excited. I am. I'm very excited, as I think we all should be, right? I mean, yet again, we defy expectations. This issue, the Texas issue, defies expectations. The critics say one thing, and we do something and just completely demolish them, right? The opposition says it'll never happen, but it always happens, right? At some point, people will stop listening to the opposition on this. They just don't get it. Right. So the last time we were together was the night before. I think we were. I distinctly remember being in Austin. So that was the first, right? The day before Texas Independence Day. No, yes, maybe. I think it was the first, right? Because the next Wednesday we were on the road and I could not, right? And then obviously last night I was traveling back, right? So that's right. Okay, I've got this squared away now. So the day before Texas Independence Day. So what a phenomenal series of events have transpired since we were together last. It's no secret. We got the Texit bill filed. State Representative Brian Slayton filed the Texit bill, House Bill 3596. I'll show you guys if you want the details on it. We'll throw that on there. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so here it is on the website. You can go look for the news article that says the Texit bill has been filed. It was filed on the 6th, which was the anniversary of the fall of the Alamo. But it's there's a ton, and I can answer any questions about this that you'd like tonight. about the bill process. And I believe that we're talking about having a special webinar to address all of the TEXIT questions, right? To get everybody sort of prepped for what's going to happen next, but really a place where you guys can invite, if you have questions about the process or the bill, any aspect of it, the constitutionality. We're going to do a big webinar. We're going to let you plug into it. We're going to let you invite as many people as you want. I mean, we're taking the limitations off of it because we expect it to be extremely packed, right? So it's going to be a phenomenal opportunity for you to get plugged into that. But we got the bill filed, and now lovely things are happening because today, this very day, this morning, the bill was read out, first reading on the floor and assigned to committee. So it's next step in the process. Been assigned to the State Affairs Committee. And in fact, we've got a nice little action item article on the website that tells you who all's on that committee. And we can talk about that if you'd like, and what you need to do, right? Some specific action items for you if you want to see this issue advance. And I think that you probably do. Yeah, boy, hang on. I'm going to go ahead and drop that one in there because I'm actually going to address something that I just saw in the chat here in a bit, but I wanted to make sure that I flagged it so we can cover all this, right? So obviously, you guys know that it has been exceedingly busy over here, right? So once the bill was filed, as predicted, everything it just blew up, right? I think the total run, the last count was 2,200 media mentions and hits, somewhere around there, right around the time, I think it was in the over the 3-day period or whatever. I mean, it was massive. It blew up. It went everywhere. And of course, not all of those was original reporting. Unfortunately, probably about half of them were just regurgitations of some of the, other articles that were out there, which I'm going to get to here in a minute. And of course, the media meltdown always happens. Oh my God, Texans are going to vote to secede. Well, yeah, we're probably going to vote for our independence, right? But the bill itself is filed. No one freak out. These guys just lose their minds so easily, right? And of course, our perennial pearl clutchers came out of the woodwork, including none other than State Representative Jeff Leach, which was really hilarious because that guy unwinds on social media like crazy. I don't know I don't know what it is, but certain times of the day that he just goes off the rails. I mean, off the rails. He's accusing Brian Slayton, who filed the bill, of filing. He said the bill was treasonous and seditionist. Ooh, such terrible words that he will soon probably pay for. But that being said, he goes on a rant, and anyone who tried to jump in and gently nudge him and correct him, he just lashed out at them. I saw an interesting exchange between Jeff Leach and Teresa Beckmeyer. If you guys don't know Teresa, she's you got to look her up. We've known Teresa for quite some time, but Teresa was trying to gently nudge him and be like, "Hey, what part of Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution do you think is problematic here?" And he's like, "Well, read Article 1," and and he cuts off the first half of it. And Texas is a free and independent state subject only to the United States Constitution. And then he cuts it off and she says, "Hey, maybe you need to read Article 1, Section 1, right? All the way to the end where it says the perpetuity of the Union depends on the right of local self-government unimpaired to all the states." Well, he's having none of it. So he goes on an attack against Representative Slayton, not about policy, not in a professional manner, but went after Slayton on the issue that Slayton's wife is an immigrant, right? She came here legally, got her citizenship, but somehow Jeff Leach had a problem with that. So he wasn't attacking Brian. He's attacking Brian's wife and attacking his marriage. Oh, and then, I mean, it just got even worse after that. So I'm not even going to repeat the horrendous things that they eventually pulled down. But look, Jeff Leach owes any of those people that refer to this as treason or sedition, they owe us an apology. They owe Slayton an apology. They owe all of you an apology. I don't care if they apologize to me or not. There's not a name that they're going to call me that's going to get me to clutch my pearls like they do every time the issue of TEXIT comes up. I don't need their apology. But they need to apologize to you. They need to apologize to Representative Slayton. Leach needs to take the floor in a personal privilege speech in the House and publicly apologize for what he said and what he did. I don't know. I don't know if that would be welcome by Representative Slayton. I don't know. I don't know how that would go down. But I think that is at least what Jeff Leach could do. You know, I got a thick skin. I can take it. He can't call me anything that's going to get me upset. But at the end of the day, he needs to apologize to all of y'all, and he needs to apologize to Representative Slayton. If it's a policy disagreement, disagree on policy, right? But interestingly enough, Leach's meltdown was picked up by a bunch of media, right? And the media, you guys know how the media is on this issue. Anytime it comes up, what do they want to say? It's the same old garbage. Texas can't do it. The Civil War settled that. You know, it's unconstitutional. It's illegal. Texas versus what? It's always the same crap over and over and over. And look, you guys know many times on this live stream, in my book, on the website, in public speeches, I have destroyed every single one of those arguments. In fact, in this last media round where they said all of those things and talked about the unconstitutionality of it, we offered them alternative academics to correct them on the issues related to the constitutionality and Texas versus White, things of that nature. And none of them took us up on it, which ought to tell you something right there, is they've got an in-programmed bias against this issue. If they printed something and then they said something, you know, along the lines of Texas versus White said states can't do that, well, that's just simply not correct. In fact, we were contacted by a reporter or a fact checker from USA Today who specifically asked about that. And I sent a very long takedown on the issue related to the right of the people to make this decision, where we derive that right from, the fact that there is no constitutional prohibition against it, and also offered academics who could back up that work, right? If you don't believe me, that's fine. Here's an academic, and here's 3 or 4. We'll connect you with as many as you possibly need that have actual real world experience on these issues. And, you know, they didn't take us up on it. I haven't seen hide in their hair of that USA Today article. Maybe it's still generating. Maybe they're still kind of, you know, maybe it's still cooking over there. Or maybe it's like so many of the others where we defend this issue and they can't poke holes in what we say and the story gets spiked. Because that's happened. Just go ask the Texas Tribune about the story they spiked on us, right? Because we were interviewed and we knew what we were talking about. We weren't some, you know, hay seeds just rolled out from the hills, no shoes, a bunch of country bumpkins. You know, we've got experience in this issue. And I have no qualms about holding my own against any of those people and bringing backup if that's what they need. But trust me, I don't need backup. So between what was happening with Leach and what was happening with the media about this, someone who is I would say probably a favorite academic on the history of the Constitution, all these things, Dr. Brian McClanahan, you guys may or may not know who he is. I quote him in the book on when he talks about Texas versus White. Well, he does a podcast. And this last podcast, he dedicated half of it to addressing what Jeff Leach said. So here's what I do. This is unusual for here because I don't normally play extended clips, right? But I'm going to do it tonight because there are going to be people out there who look at me saying what I say about Texas versus White and the constitutionality of the issue, and they're going to say, well, of course you'd say that. That's what you want. You want Texas to be independent. So you're going to say these things. So I'm gonna let you hear. We're gonna watch together Brian's takedown of that argument that he did about what Leach said and what the media is saying. I'm gonna let you hear it from someone other than me because it's very similar to when we did the webinar with Dr. Quartrip, and I said, "Hey guys, get ready. Maybe now that you hear it from a guy with a British accent, you'll believe it because some of you didn't believe it when I said it, right?" So same thing, although Brian kind of talks like us, right? But here you go. This is Dr. Brian McClanahan. Watch this.
That's one issue. The other issue, of course, is Texas secession. You had a bill put forward to debate Texas secession, the Texas legislature, and you had this dopey dope. His name is Jeff Leach. And so I know a lot of people listen to this podcast in Texas, so maybe Jeff Leach will get this. And he's a young doofus who really doesn't know what he's talking about. And I find this fascinating because there was a Constitution of Texas written in 1869. That Constitution was overturned, essentially superseded by the Constitution of 1876. And I don't know if Jeff Leach knows that. This is what I'm not clear on. I don't know if Jeff Leach understands the fact that the 1869 Constitution is no longer in force. And so the 1876 Texas Constitution unequivocally states, and this is Jeff Leach's language. He says this: if you believe that Texas should secede from the United States of America, #sick, then yes, unequivocally yes. And his response was to a person that said, "Are you accusing me of treasonous sedition?" A person who is tired of living under the boot of the federal government, Texans who love this state. And he says, if you believe that Texas should secede from the United States, he's saying that you're guilty of treasonous sedition. Now, what's funny is somebody pointed out, somebody else said, hey, look, you do know the people who framed our current Constitution explicitly threw out the Unionist language from the 1869 Constitution, right? And Leach's response was, yep, again, read Section 1. So let's go read Section 1 of the current Texas Constitution. Article 1, Section 1, which is the Bill of Rights. Section 1, freedom and sovereignty of state. Texas is a free and independent state, subject only to the Constitution of the United States. And the maintenance of our free institutions and the perpetuity of the Union depend upon the preservation of the right of local self-government unimpaired to all the states. Now, he's reading this. I guess his point is that Texas is a free and independent state subject only to the Constitution of the United States. So I guess in his mind, by saying that line, he's thinking that the state of Texas is subject to the Constitution of the United States. This is true. But then it says this, and the maintenance of our free institutions and the perpetuity of the Union depend upon the preservation of the right of local self-government unimpaired to all the states. Now, Section 2 then backs up what the language was of Section 1. All political powers inherent in the people and all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their benefit. The faith of the people of Texas stands pledged to the preservation of a republican form of government and subject to this limitation only. They have at all times the inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish their government in such manner as they may think expedient. So if you put these two things together, and I guess Leach's point is, well, read Section 1. Don't go to because somebody else pointed out Section 2. No, read Section 1. Section 1 doesn't invalidate Section 2. In fact, in Section 2, the people have a right to alter, abolish, or reform their government. And if that means that they want to be independent. That's what they can do. Now, we know that Texas, other people said, what about Texas v. White? Well, Texas v. White, I talked about it last week, it's a political decision, not a legal decision. We know that secession was still debatable. We know that secession is still debatable to this day. It was never settled legally. And so for Jeff Leach to run around saying that somehow Article 1, freedom and sovereignty of state, the language is sovereignty of state. What does that actually mean? Does it mean the general government is sovereign, but the state isn't? It's subject only to the Constitution of the United States. Well, if the Constitution of the United States is being ignored, abused, violated, then the Constitution of the United States is really no longer in force. This is the whole point. These people don't get it. Now, we can, again, I've made it clear on this podcast, we can calculate the value of union. It would better be Texas in the union or out of the union. But the question of secession is clear. There's nothing in the Constitution that prohibits a state from leaving the union. Subject only to the Constitution of the United States. Is there language in the Constitution that prohibits Texas from leaving the union? Is there language in the Constitution that prohibits any state from leaving the union? Last time I checked, it's not there. And see, Jeff Dopey Leach doesn't understand reserved powers. This is the problem with Republicans. This moron doesn't get reserved powers. You see, and this is again looking at it from the top down. When you look at how the Constitution was ratified, and you go back and look at the arguments in favor of the Constitution, one of the things that was pointed out, of course, from opponents of the document is that the Constitution would swallow up the states. It would become a centralized despotism. And the friends of the document swore over and over again that wouldn't happen. So to ensure this wouldn't happen, you have the 10th Amendment in the Bill of Rights. Now, when you look at the preamble to the Bill of Rights, it says the Bill of Rights is there to prevent misconstruction. And the 10th Amendment says that all powers not delegated to the delegated to the central authority are reserved to the people of the states. People or the states respectively, right? Or prohibited to it by the Constitution. I mean, so you have all powers not delegated nor prohibited. So you look at the Constitution, and I'm paraphrasing the 10th there, but you look at the Constitution. Does it say that secession is prohibited? Go find it. Does it say in the Constitution that a state cannot leave the Union? It doesn't say that at all. Does it say that the central government can prohibit secession? It doesn't say that at all. So therefore, it's a reserved power of the states, where sovereignty of state means something. You see? So Leach's argument, he's saying, yep, look at Section 1, thinking that subject only to the Constitution of the United States. Well, right. Well, secession is not denied. Secession is not denied to the states. Secession is not illegal. Secession is not a power of the... There is no power... Nothing it says in the Constitution, this union is permanent, and any state that joins can never leave. It doesn't say any of that. There's nothing there. This is a reserved power of the states. So Jeff Leach's argument is the most idiotic thing I've ever seen, ever. I mean, you might as well have a progressive leftist make this kind of argument. They do, but this is their argument. This is the real problem with Republicans. They're just as stupid as Democrats. Most of them. Particularly those that have some type of national ambition, which I'm sure Jeff Dopey Leach does. I mean, his last name would assume that he wants to leech off the system in some ways, right? So he's simply regurgitating tired, stupid arguments that don't really have any kind of legal justification whatsoever. That's the real problem I have with Republicans. And I mean, look, the federal judge in the Missouri situation is stupid. Jeff Leach is stupid. They don't really understand their position. Now, of course, there's a Fox article about this, and it says, well, you know, Texas v. White said it's unconstitutional. Well, I mean, again, we have legal scholars now talking about that. That was a political decision, not a legal decision. It didn't really solve anything. Or, well, we know the war solved this. Wars don't solve anything. Thomas Jefferson said that. Wars don't solve any legal situation. Nothing. They don't solve a legal issue. This is the real issue with all of this stuff. So when you go back and you look at this particular issue, and again, I guess Leach, he's understanding, yeah, I understand we don't have the 1869 Constitution, but read Section 1. Section 1 doesn't support his position at all. Treasonous and sedition? Against what? You're committing treason? Against what? If you look at the definition of treason in the U.S. Constitution, it's waging war against them. There's a reason why Jefferson Davis was never tried for treason, because they really couldn't prove it. Even, look, Cynthia Nicoletti, I mentioned her last week in her book on Jefferson Davis, the trial of Jefferson Davis, the trial that never was. She basically comes down on the side of the Jefferson team. That, yeah, it was going to be pretty hard to get a conviction on treason. They weren't really going to be able to do it because you can't really define treason as, or secession as treason. You can't define secession as treason. You can't do it. Sedition? Sedition. Against what? And number one, the general government cannot pass a sedition law, no matter what they say. They've got one in effect. But as we know, according to Jefferson and Madison, this is unconstitutional because it violates the First Amendment to the Constitution. The general government can't pass a sedition law. The states can, but the federal government cannot because it's unconstitutional. So if you're subject only to the Constitution of the United States, then that Constitution of the United States should have some kind of language that says secession is illegal or this is sedition, but they don't. It doesn't. It doesn't have any of that because that's not unconstitutional. You see, Jeff Leach needs a big history lesson on all this stuff. And I know Miller, who is the head of the TEXIT movement, commented on his page and said, well, here you need to read this again because here's a nice history lesson. Of course, Leach didn't respond to that. Leach won't respond to that because if he does, he's admitting he doesn't know anything. This is the problem with conservatives in America. Too many of them believe in the Lincolnian myth of, or the Pledge of Allegiance. He actually mentioned the Pledge of Allegiance in one of these things. You pledge every day to the United States. So Jeff Leach is more than willing to take a socialist pledge and say that's America. It was written by a socialist. Jeff Leach really does need an education. Jeff Leach is a problem. The conservatives really are a problem in all this. Because they don't understand what they're doing plays right into the hands of progressives. If you're a Lincolnian nationalist, if you're someone that takes the Pledge of Allegiance and does that with, this is all rah-rah America, you are essentially buying in to the Lincolnian myth of America. And that is a real problem for our side in all of this.
All right. So there you go, out of the horse's mouth. And, it's an amazing thing to hear what we've been saying come out of somebody else. Look, I think we're at this point, and those of you who watched some of the previous live streams that have been sort of part of these conversations know that one of the things that we've always wanted to see is we've wanted to see academics that have their heads screwed on straight come off the bench or come out of the stands and jump in here and dispel these myths, these lies, these rumors, all of this kind of nonsense that you hear the other side just so freely vomit all over everyone, right? We're out here trying to ensure that Texans get a vote to determine how we govern ourselves in the future, wholly consistent with Article 1, Section 2. And invariably, these media outlets will go reach out, and you've heard me say it before, some third-rate adjunct professor from Bug Tussle Community College to come out and comment on this. And what's always funny to me is they'll have the historians comment on the legal aspects of it, or the legal people comment on the military aspect. I mean, they always mismatch, and I don't know if they do that on purpose or they're just lazy, right? But either way, they drag the same cast of characters out, and we've been here all along. We've they've interviewed us. They interview us and figure out that we're not a bunch of morons, and they don't want to talk anymore because it shatters their narrative, right? And so we're always excited when we see some of these academics coming off the bench to reinforce what we're doing as what they call us practitioners, right? And it's nice to hear those arguments that we've made time and time again, the things that we've pointed out, like there is no constitutional prohibition against withdrawing from the union. Zero. There is no federal law. They can't find it. Texas versus White didn't do anything. Like I told the USA Today reporter the other day, it did nothing. When people say that Texas versus White prohibited leaving the union, it stopped secession. Well, that's interesting because, maybe Chase made some sort of, commentary assertion there, but then he literally goes on in his decision and describes two ways to withdraw from the union. So it's either perpetual or it's not. Well, okay, well, if Texas versus White didn't do it, then maybe, the war settled it. Really? So that's where we're at now, right? That's the point in time where we're at. So that, because the last time I checked, they all started, there was a bunch of weeping and gnashing of teeth when a bunch of people walked into the Capitol in Washington, D.C. But according to that whole Civil War settled it might makes right argument, well, they should have just pitched them the keys. They should have just said, okay, here you go. We're overpowered, right? But that's not how it works. It's never how it works. Force doesn't settle legal matters. So you can't say that states are prohibited legally or constitutionally from withdrawing from the Union because the Civil War, something that happened before our grandfathers and their fathers were probably born, right? It has no bearing on where we are now. They are the ones that are stuck in the past. We're the ones who are looking to the future. They call themselves progressives. Maybe they need to change their name to regressives, right? They're the ones that are so far stuck in the past that they cannot see that our future depends on giving Texans the simple right to vote on our future, to put a question on a ballot that will cost absolutely no money to put it on a ballot. And then if people have their voices heard and they say, we want self-government, then a committee sits that's going to cost no money. And the plan will be worked out because they have a time frame to do it. And then we get on with the business of making Texas free and independent like Article 1, Section 1 says we are supposed to be. It's simple. But yet they fill this conversation and debate with a bunch of hyperbole, and it's the same crap that we saw during the Scottish independence referendum and the same crap we saw during the Brexit referendum and so many of these others that have been labeled Project Fear, where they just try to sow so much misinformation. They think they can suffocate us under a blanket of lies and misinformation. And somehow that will extinguish our desire to become a self-governing independent nation. But they're wrong. They are so wrong. We had, and this is anecdotal, but I can tell you that when Leach went on his social media meltdown and threw out all of those lies and half-truths and misinformation, we had people contact us in his district and say, I voted for him, I gave him money, but I will never do it again. You see, every time they do this, they lose because the people of Texas want this in such a way that when they hear those lies and misinformation, they go to confirm. And the cool part about it is they can't confirm it. We've all done a really good job. All of you out there, you've done a good job of keeping this conversation alive and not allowing it to slide when they publish untruths or misinformation. You have armed yourselves with the facts, and you don't take their crap lying down. I've seen some of you firsthand call out these people, whether it's on social media or in real life. When the media publishes a lie, you're calling them out, and that's what has to happen. Whether it's media outlets or politicians or public figures or whatever it is, when you see these things that we know to be lies, we have to call them out, because our countrymen who might be on the fence about this are watching. And an unrefuted lie becomes the truth. So we battle them at every single solitary turn. Because this war that we are fighting for Texas to become a self-governing independent nation, the opportunities that it provides, the future that it will allow us to create is just too valuable and priceless for us to let it slide. When people slander, libel, we just can't let it slide. It cannot abide. So let me get to some questions. How about that? Let's start with this. First and foremost, Paul, thank you very much for your super chat. We really do appreciate it. As you can imagine, expenses are getting pretty high right now. Marketing is happening all over the place because we're trying to reach Texas voters. So our voter contact, voter outreach, many of you have commented how much you appreciate the text message notifications we're sending or the text from volunteers. You know, that's expensive. If you knew how expensive it was for us to reach out to everyone. Yeah. So definitely, Paul, thank you very much. And I'll take a TEXIT as well. All right. And of course, Eric, hey, thank you so much, Eric, for your super chat as well. You didn't leave a comment. I think you get a comment with those. So, but we appreciate it. You're doing great work up there in the Panhandle. Eric is one of our folks that's been with us for many, many years, and he's showing some true leadership up there in the Panhandle. If you were up in the Panhandle anywhere, go to our website, reach out to him. He wants to talk to you. I got to tell you, if you've ever tried to organize out in the Panhandle or West Texas, it is not easy. Everything is a drive, and Eric is a trooper. So thank you for that, Eric. Okay, so Elias says, what's the next step to Texas independence? So, if you're talking in broad terms, getting the vote is the next step. But in the process of getting the vote, if you're down to kind of the micro part of the process, where we're at right now is this bill, now that it is filed and it has been read and has been assigned to a committee, is now the committee chairman has to schedule the bill for a hearing, right? It's not automatic. So that being said, we posted news today. You can go to our website and find it. We are encouraging everyone to reach out to the chairman of the State Affairs Committee, Todd Hunter, and ask him to get the bill scheduled for a hearing in an expeditious manner. Now, the thing about this is, and I'm going to warn you guys right now, you are about to get an email probably tomorrow asking about your availability for testifying in committee. Okay. Now, bear in mind, we do not know if it'll be scheduled for a hearing. We suspect it will, which would be an improvement over last time. But more importantly, when it is, we don't know when that's going to be. And sometimes they don't provide much notice on this. So, you have to be ready. If you want to have your voice heard on this thing, on the bill, let them know you got to call the committee members. First off, let's call the chairman. Let's ask him very politely. Let's get this scheduled in an expeditious manner. But call the committee members. Let them hear from you. Send them emails. All their contact information is on the website. But the important thing here is, I don't care what you're doing. All of you folks out there who have screamed and jumped up and down for us to call a rally, The committee hearing is going to be it. Now, it's not a rally. We're not going to be on the South Steps rah-rah, but we want to pack the committee room. We want mass numbers of people testifying in favor of that bill when it goes in front of committee, and that's fine. I'm going to be there, whether you and 10,000 of your closest friends or not are going to be there is entirely up to y'all. But I'm going to tell you right now, when that bill gets scheduled for a hearing, if it required me to crawl on my hands and knees over broken glass between here and Austin, you're not going to stop me from getting there. It'll be a Jim Bowie situation with the line in the sand. Hey, I'm on my deathbed. You're going to carry me over that line. I will get there. And I would suspect that many of you will want to do that as well. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I've seen some of these other pressure groups that are showing up at the Capitol for other issues. And I want to tell you, I want the Texiteers to be the belle of the ball. I want our people to be the ones that blow out the numbers for committees. We had, when we had to do our mock committee hearing last session over 1359, we took video testimony. I would hope everyone who gave video testimony there would come to the Capitol and give testimony on this bill, right? Come straight to the Capitol. They don't do video testimony, so you have to be there in person. So we're going to be asking many of you to commit. You may get 48 hours notice, right? But we're going to be asking as many of you to commit as possible and to bring as many people as possible when the balloon goes up. This is a big one, folks. We get it to a committee hearing. They said that it would never happen, right? They said we'd never get it filed a second time. It happened. They said we wouldn't get a committee hearing. We're probably going to get a hearing. I hope so. And when we do, you better show up. Don't be MIA on the day of the committee hearing and then come to me later and go, well, I don't know why we're not getting any farther with this. Because rule number one, show up. Show up. Number one, show up, shirt up, speak up. Actually, you flip those: shirt up, show up, speak up. That's what you do. That's how you win. And you get as many people to do it as possible. That's how we win. All right. So Elias, that is the next step. So let's get it. Let's go. Right. Yes. This one says, when you Google Texas sitting from the union, every article says it's illegal and a myth. Not every article, just the ones that Google shows you at the top, which is why we have to pay for search engine results on Google. People ask why we do digital ads. It's for that reason right there. We pay money so that when people search certain terms, our ad shows up on there because we have to be there to dispel those myths. Yeah. It costs money to fight a war. Those guys get their results boosted for free. They get their lies out there, right? Doesn't cost them a dime. But, for us to counter their narrative and to put out the truth, it costs us. It's the way it works. Okay. Yep. Hello. Come get me. It says, hello from the Hex crypto community. Many support this movement. Indeed. And a hat tip to our friends with, over at Texan.cc, the Texan token. Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome. Okay. Let's do some email ones, and then I'll get to a couple things. Okay. Wow. Whew, you guys have been rather prolific with your questions tonight. Okay. Got it. Someone emailed this to me. This was actually, they CC'd me on it, or the Coffee Talk email address, something they sent to Leach. Said, you, sir, are obviously oblivious to what's happening with the current state of the union, both in Texas and the U.S. We are in a full-blown attack on the sovereignty of our state and the country. Your recent Twitter comments are both ignorant and elitist in nature. We suggest you get educated and trust the people of the state of Texas to decide. You know, isn't that the truth? I mean, I want you to think about how poorly they are reacting to simply wanting to put a question on the ballot. I mean, they must be really afraid of what the people are going to say. They must be really, really, really scared. And if they're scared, let's follow my logic. If they oppose TEXIT and they're afraid of what the people will say when asked the question, what does that tell you they think the answer will be? Just saying. Okay. Robert says my HOA says my TEXIT sign has to come down off my front gate because it's a political sign. Are they correct or are they fabricating BS? Do I have a leg to stand on with some kind of defense? Please let me know. Robert, I would love to help you, but it's not a legal answer line. If you have a legal question about that, I don't know that I can help you in some dispute between you and the HOA. But I would be upset. I would look around your neighborhood for other political signs. Are other people displaying political messages? If so, got to come down. Okay. Eric says, would it encourage Representative Slayton to work harder for the bill in committee and not cave to pressure, withdraw the bill if he can? Should he be thanked? Look, Slayton's not going to withdraw that bill. Let me just be very clear about this. The right guy in this session is carrying the bill. He has already gone to bat for your right to vote in a very big way. He's catching it from his colleagues. He's already taken the arrows. So you got the right guy to go out there and do battle for you in the House of Representatives. Now, I would absolutely suggest you contact his office and thank him. If it's via email, that'd probably be easier on his staffers, or if you call or you go by the Capitol or whatever, thank them. Absolutely thank them. His staff has done an amazing job dealing with this tsunami of support and questions about this legislation. They've done a phenomenal job. So absolutely thank him, but thank his staff too. They're running so much interference, and you got to remember, this isn't the only piece of legislation that he's working. He's got some other great legislation. Matter of fact, here very soon, we're going to be covering all of the bills that are in the legislature right now. Not all of them, but all of the ones that pertain to our mission. And we're going to be going over a good bills and bad bills. And there are some really interesting contenders for good bills that are squarely within our mission that are coming from some surprising people. So, be on the lookout for that. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay, so here we go. This is a question from John. John says, there is a 2016 piece from Texas Monthly titled TEXIT Forces Welcomed at a Russian Separatist Conference. A link to this article is often posted as a comment on some of my TEXIT-related social media posts. Any suggestions on dealing with the spurious allegations, biased reporting, and generally sloppy journalism embodied in this hit piece? Should I save a text file containing a reasoned and well-researched rebuttal to use in response, or is a selection from my Bless Your Heart meme collection more appropriate? John, let me tell you, this is one that they love to drag out, right? And we've dealt with this ad nauseum, like we have all the rest of this crap. But just like they drag out the Texas versus White thing, they drag this thing out. But we have full discussions about it, right? We've been very transparent about that issue and the fact that they don't mention the invitations, where we've spoken, or invitations to speak in Scotland, or where we appeared at conferences in Italy, or the trip our executive director made to meet with, some of our friends in UKIP. or as a guest of a political party in France that's a Eurosceptic party where he spoke at their conference, or the meetings that he had in Catalonia with some of the members of the coalition that were pushing for Catalan independence, or the fact that I spoke at a conference in Brazil for the MSPI. They don't mention that I spoke alongside the people from New Hampshire and California at two separate conferences, both of them in New Hampshire. So, this is just kind of the normal kind of nonsense, right? Our message, and we've made no bones about this, we have been engaging with independence movements around the world, even before the founding of the TNM, to first and foremost understand how these other places either got their independence or how they are working on getting their independence. And a lot of that informed how we created the TNM and how we approach things. The flip side of that is we feel a responsibility to impart our experience to young independence movements around the world. And so if you go look, there's I think one of my speeches may be on the website from the Italian conference or MSPI. I can't remember, but it's on there. Maybe it's the transcript, but literally it's essentially the same thing. It's the same thing that you would hear pretty much if you came to a meeting of the TNM, where we talk about the fundamental right of self-determination. We talk about the inalienability of the people to alter, reform, or abolish their government. We talk about the fact that the growth of independent nation states around the world since World War II. We talk about all those same things, and then we try to impart what our experience is, right? Which has been one where, at its core, every independence movement must be a people movement. People must always be the focal point. Even though Article 1, Section 2 is in the Texas Constitution, understand the concepts in it are universal. So, this is an angle that they like to go on, much like they did with the Trump thing. I like to believe that maybe we were the canary in the coal mine to test the messaging on whether that was a good attack vector. But it's like we've said time and time again, there is no there. We've been extraordinarily transparent where that's concerned. And, just like with anything else related to us, the media does not like to get our side of it. They like to print crap about us, say things about us, be horrible to us. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And then not even give us a chair at the table to rebut. Right. So, whatever, man, go look on the website. If you go to the news section and search, you will find tons of rebuttal about that. I think there's a recorded interview that I did specifically about that right around the time of the Catalan referendum. So, I mean, there's a lot, but I wouldn't put any stock into it. They're baiting you is what they're trying to do. And let's be honest, those people that are probably throwing that out there probably bought and sold by the Chinese Communist Party anyway. So who cares? Okay. That is, that's it. Okay. Hang on. Garrett says, would Texas be against some other Southern state joining her? Not how it works. Right. We have been very clear in our opposition to, Texas joining any union or, type of federalist system on the other side of TEXIT. We've been abundantly clear. I will not fight so long for Texas to become free and independent, only to jump into another union that forces us to surrender our sovereignty to a capital that is not ours. Right? It's not going to happen. Okay. Now, that being said, that's not how it works. It's one of the criticisms that we leveled against the discussion about national divorce being a partisan divorce, because that's not how it is. It's the United States of America. It's not the united partisan politics of America. There are 50 states, and all 50 states should have the ability to determine whether they want to stay in the union or become self-governing independent nations. Now, on the other side of that, any states that have so chosen to become self-governing independent nations have an opportunity to work with other self-governing independent nations, as self-governing independent nations do all around the world today, via treaty and trade agreements, whether they're unilateral or bilateral or multilateral agreements, right? Whatever that is. But the one thing about it is you don't have to give up your sovereignty to work with one another. In my book, I cite examples of the countries. There are 22 of them that have free trade agreements with the United States. But those free trade agreements mean that they have essentially frictionless trade between the borders, and in some instances are have a far easier time getting goods across the United States than states do from between one another. But no one has suggested that they should give up their sovereignty and take a knee to Washington, D.C. That's just not the way it is. So you can do business with one another as self-governing independent nations, as peers, without that federal administrative bureaucracy sucking the air out of the room and stealing your freedom and destroying your sovereignty and becoming a bloated and corrupt organization. You can do that on the other side of independence without entering into some, yet again, absolute political and economic union. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Let's see if we got something else. Nope, I think we're good. All right. I see some discussions about the testimony. Daphne said 2 minutes is all you get for testimony. Sometimes, depending on the rules, it could be 3 minutes. Some of the ones that they know they're going to have a ton of people, they will limit you to 2 minutes on testimony. But when we'll get together, we'll have a little training on that online that you'll be able to take a look at. It's for those of you who haven't done it before, buckle up, Buttercup. It's fun. You're going to do an awful lot of waiting. You're going to do 2 minutes, and you're going to be, wow, I've been here 12 hours for that. But it matters. It matters a lot. Okay, my friends, it is about time to wrap this thing up. Now, let me just verify something, because I need to determine whether or not you're going to see me on my regular night next week. And it appears that you will. So that makes me immensely happy. So although I'm a night later than usual this week, at least I'm here. And I will be back on Wednesday night next week. So this is going to be a lot of fun. All right. Well, folks, this has been a fun one. I didn't even get a chance to really review the week too much. Where Dr. Kortrup spoke at University of Texas, or that phenomenal Texas Independence Day celebration that Angela Watuski and the team in Wahlberg put together. That got, oddly enough, interrupted by a nearby tornado, which I thought was, that was a new one for me. Tornado's not new, but having an event disrupted by one was. Then we had TNMers march in the Texas Independence Day parade, that they have in Austin, that was on the 4th, and we had a celebration at Riley's Tavern there outside of New Braunfels in Hunter. And got to meet so many folks. And then we got to take Dr. Kortrup to Garland, and then over to Houston for an event at Republic Boot. And, got to take him to, but there's so much that was gleaned from our time with the doc that, we're still processing a lot of it. And the good news is he got back and was immediately excited. He's like, he says he's like a shark. If he stops swimming, he dies. And I believe that. I talked to him, I think, twice today. So, his insight about where we are, what we need to be doing is going to be invaluable. And I'm pretty sure that everyone that got to meet him was definitely understood that the guy knows his craft, and his craft is independence referendums. So we're excited to be working with him and listening to him, and there's a lot to come. So, all right, let's get down to it, folks. Well, if you are not already a member of the TNM, if you have not registered your support, head over to tnm.me/vote. That is tnm.me/vote. And, let's get it. Let's go, right? If you're not already a registered supporter, go do it. Even if you think you have already, right? So there's a lot of people out there who think they are registered supporters. You're not. Just because you signed a petition doesn't mean you're a registered supporter. You actually have to declare your support, right? And then, of course, if you are not a member, head over to tnm.me/join, tnm.me/join. Become a member today. And let me tell you, our volunteer program is firing up hardcore. I know that Paul Roby, our field director, is doing a ton of work over there. Got a lot of folks working, and we need your help. So head over to tnm.me/volunteer and get plugged in. We need your help. All right. Well, my friends, I am back, and then I am now out because, it's been more talk than coffee, unfortunately. And I've got to get back to work. But as always, in the meantime, I will leave you with the words that I leave you with. Oh man, I didn't even talk about that banger event in Lufkin we had, hosted by the Angelina GOP. I mean, it's just been a lot, folks. I mean, there's been a lot going on, and it's all been great. It's all been great. It is the most exciting time to be a supporter of Texas independence that I've ever had. It's that exciting. And I'm thankful to all of you. I'm thankful to all of you for making it happen. Anyway, as I was saying before I interrupted myself, which I do sometimes because it's a self-edit, I'm going to leave you with the words that I leave you with every time we're together. They're not my words, they're the words of Sam Houston when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now, and the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.